Far east of the Sword Coast, the Shadowvar and Discoverin have fallen. The Shadow Storm is no more. Sembia is fractured into city-states. A mysterious hero rises from the ashes to usher in a new era of prosperity. Yet there is still suffering. Cormyr and the wild elves of the Dalelands offer war on all sides. Earth motes, madness, and shadow dragons plague the lands. These are the tales of the heroes who ended that suffering. 1491 DR, the year of Sembian revival.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of The Long-Winded One. With me tonight, I have two more of, I guess you could say, players or actors from the podcast. They actually happen to live very close to each other. They have a very special guest with them tonight, as they are new parents. I'd like to welcome to the podcast Evelyn and Jeremiah. They play Thera and Hashka, respectively. So welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we might get to hear a little bit from Mr. Finian, too. He's the new addition.
Yeah. We have a Hashka, an Irish-themed character, and now we have an Irish-themed son. So welcome, Finian. So again, you guys are like probably the third or the fourth set of actors or players, however you want to describe them, interviews that we're doing in season 4 here, and I've tried to group the actors in such a way that it makes sense. Jeremiah, you've actually been with us for a long time playing various parts. And Evelyn, actually, you've played a few parts as well, but Thera is kind of your main character. And Jeremiah, you're playing someone called Hashka now, who is a main character, but just kind of joined the party. And so what I'd like to do is I have a series of questions I want to ask you. So the first question is, tell us a little bit about how you came to be associated with this either campaign or podcast.
Well, interestingly enough, it's kind of through Evelyn in a roundabout way. Evelyn, my wife, and my brother-in-law, her brother Stephen, he plays Jindal on the same podcast. So a couple of years ago, I was looking for a Dungeons and Dragons group to play with, and so we ended up playing with you, Jared, and myself, and your brother as well. We played a couple of games, and then after a while, you said that this campaign had been going on for quite some time, and you said that there was going to be an opening for a character, and I jumped at the chance and joined up and have been with that group ever since. I mean, funny enough, you and the rest of this gang are one of the bigger parts of my weekly life, and the only person that I've ever actually met face-to-face is my brother-in-law.
That's, yeah. Yeah, we've, it's been a couple of years now, probably.
Yeah. It was before we were engaged, Evelyn and I, definitely before Mr. Finian was even
you were going to say conceived, weren't you? Well, what about you, Evelyn? I guess we can probably sort of extrapolate the answer, but anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, Jared's brother is one of my brother's best friends, so he was over at the house all the time, and I was really excited because I've always loved acting and everything, and it's fun, and I was kind of nervous the first time we recorded, but when you guys asked if I'd be interested in doing a few little female parts, I was like, sure, I'll try it, and it's really fun. So.
Yeah, well, there's nothing little about Thera. I can tell you that my wife, who plays Sonia, is just so in awe of you and the character itself. She says Thera is just frightening, and she really is.
It's been fun.
So let's go on to the next question, which is tell us if you have any role-playing game experience and or acting experience. Jeremiah, you've kind of commented on this a little bit. Maybe you could take us back even before you started playing with us.
While I was in drama back in junior high school, a friend of ours, he got my friend Jeremy and myself into Werewolf the Apocalypse. It's White Wolf system, and we played that like nobody's business all through high school. I guarantee you, I studied those books far harder than I studied any other book that was put in front of me during high school. Yeah, then I was involved in drama all throughout high school, but then did not pursue that necessarily, but kept going. But I've always been playing some sort of role playing game. Tabletop has always been where my heart has been at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Evelyn, what about you? You mentioned, I think you mentioned that you have some acting experience. Do you have any role playing experience too?
I think that I started playing a campaign with Jeremiah and a few of his buddies like after I started doing this. And yeah, that was fun. But that's really my only experience actually playing any kind of Dungeons and Dragons. But acting, yes, I was in plays growing up, the theater and the community theater in Marietta, Ohio. I always did like the summer camps and the plays, and then through high school. But yeah, and then I've done some commercials and TV and some stuff like that too. But
oh wow,
you're a professional.
I had no idea. I'm in the presence of a professional here.
Do you have your SAG card?
All right, well, let's go to the next question here. So originally, Jeremiah, Hashka wasn't called Hashka, and again, Hashka is a Gaelic name that we said was more of like a celestial name, but it's really a Gaelic name spelled Thiasce. And originally, though, the character was named Who, and he was well. Actually, I'm taking all of your thunder. Please just tell us about the original concept for Hashka, if you can.
No, absolutely, yeah. Jared had approached me because I was going to be joining the campaign, and so a lot of all the characters knew each other pretty well, and I was going to be dropped in. So he gave me some pointers and some background on about what was going on in the world and what had been happening so far with the characters, and then gave me a little bit of a background of what this character was going to be bringing to the party. And so what I kind of thought of was this not an unlikely hero, but just an unlikely choice of a person for the god Ao to have chosen. And I went with an owl character, one of the Aarakocra. We were, and upon the change to this, with Matoa being, a raven person, that was probably bird enough, so we needed to change it. But for the original campaign, he was an owl, and decided that he was not going to be associated with this realm of existence almost at all, and was brought here just by the god Ao. So there was just this creature that was just as uncomfortable being in this realm as it was with being on this mission. He was this pure being, but not like a paladin, just this well-hearted, good, almost naive creature, and thrown into the midst, both in reality and in fiction, just thrown in with the group and kind of just had to figure out his own place inside of it. And then that campaign went, and it was fantastic, and there was a lot of good puns to be had with his name of being Who and him being an owl. That's kind of the whole basis of his name was being Who, just as a fun joke for myself.
We all enjoyed that, actually.
Many times during role-playing sessions, like, who is doing this? And he would be, no, he isn't. And, lots of fun there. But, for changing it for this, again, Jared and I discussed more about make it new, make it different. And so we tossed around a couple of ideas, and this one, he's more of an ASMR. He is a fallen angel, not fallen from grace, but I think without saying too much or without giving anything away for right now, he got a little too big for his britches and tried to walk down a road too fast without any help, and was kind of swatted down.
What's funny is originally when you were telling me about Who, there were certain aspects of your background that I thought, well, that's good for like player knowledge for you. But like, I'm not really sure how to fit that into the campaign. And what's the funny thing is, like, I ended up coming to the same like I ended up using like your mentor was supposedly a sphinx for your character, and I ended up sort of coming almost full circle to your original idea in some of these way, and some, with this podcast, not like intentionally, but it was just like a really good fit. So I have to give you props for the original character concept. And in the podcast too, your character was in animal form, which happened to be an owl.
Kind of the tribute to who.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, all right. Well, if I could switch gears a little bit to Thera, Evelyn, what do you? I'm curious to hear what you think of Thera as a character. I think she's probably one of my favorite villains from the podcast that I've written, and I was wondering if you agree with that, and if so, like, what makes her a good villain?
Like I said earlier, she was a blast to play because, like, who doesn't want to be like an amazing, powerful, terrifying woman? I think that her loyalty to her cause, and how I feel like what makes her terrifying, and what I tried to do with her voice was, there was kind of an air of calm behind it, but it was also like dark and deep and, just very menacing at times. But I think that her loyalty for her cause, and then and with her dragons, a woman with dragons. So
yeah, I think that's been done somewhere before, if I remember. Yeah.
But what the uniqueness of, the dragons and the powers that came to Thera through them, it was just, it was done differently and done uniquely. So I thought it was really cool.
I suppose we should ask the sort of part two to this question, and that's, you're using a past tense. She was a fun character to play, and I suppose the next part of logical question would be, do you think that Thera's dead?
With what happens to Thera and the gift that she receives, I don't think that the core of Thera is gone. I think that the core of Thera is transferred into something else. So might not be called Thera, but I think that like the heart and soul, the center of Thera is going to continue on and be present as something else because of the gift that she received. It's a great power. And I also think that that's another part of the previous question and what makes her such an amazing villain.
Yeah, she's the Energizer Bunny. She just keeps going. Yeah, I think that was an excellent way to answer that question. I think you said the core of Thera will continue. Well, we'll see, I suppose. All right. Well, let me ask. We'll open this back up to both of you. Do either of you have a favorite episode so far that you've been a part of?
The one that I think my most favorite that I've been a part of so far is Coral's Well. I was Coral, and just getting the chance to play someone who was utterly insane, but saw the world for what it was, and knew his business, but was also objectively to every other person insane. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you played crazy very well. And it's important. I don't know exactly when this episode will air, but it's important that you're reminding the listeners of the Coral's Well episode, because
especially about what is about to happen for what we literally just recorded.
Yes, exactly. So, I hope the listeners will remember some of these things that have happened. So, some of these things happened in terms of recording time 6 months ago. And who knows how long ago, if people are sort of plowing through this podcast, maybe it was,
maybe yesterday or last week that they're listening to it, or
exactly. But there are plot threads and items even that may come back up before we know it. But what about you, Evelyn? Favorite episode for you?
When Thera went into battle, and then they went back into the cave, and she was in in a stormy mood when she got back. And
Yeah, you killed someone, didn't you?
You killed a guy.
Killed a guy.
maybe I killed a guy.
One of your own, I mean. Yeah.
I was fired up.
Yeah, she was in a foul mood that episode. You were back at the hole of Yaun, and someone kept calling you lady, and you didn't like it. Yes. All right. Well, I'm kind of curious to see what you think of how this story will end.
I know how the role-playing session ended.
Yeah.
And then you sent me another kind of a teaser question, really, that one of the characters is going to go back west to Cormier after the story, which is to note for, I guess, the listeners, a game that we're all playing in right now. I have been thinking long and hard about this, and I think the only person that actually makes sense to me that's going to go over there was going to be Siren.
Well, I am curious. So you answered the question that I had asked, which was, which of these main characters are going to head to Cormier after this is over. And the reason I asked that, of course, is because it's what you mentioned. We're in a campaign now in Cormier, but I'm curious, just from what you've seen, Evelyn, how do you think is this gonna have a happy ending here, this story?
I'm a dark person. I hope not.
The perfect Thera.
They're so American. Let's get a good European, just a heart-wrenching, terrible ending that makes people sad.
Yeah. Well, how about we go for a middle ground? Maybe we could have a little of both. What do you think?
That's usually how good stories end.
Right. Yes.
Because you got to have a little bit of sacrifice. The hobbits returned to the Shire, but even the Shire, when they returned, was not perfect. They had saved the world, but there was a lot of destruction to get there, and so it wasn't a happy ending.
Yeah, I like that. Multifaceted.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to shoot for that then, I suppose. Huh? Well, guys, thank you again, and we even got to hear from Finian a little bit. So we have more Hashka in the future. We know that Thera, in so far in the recording, has become this thing that the characters are calling the Ravager, which is one of the aspects of Baal. That sometimes his followers or his essentially offspring got some of these gifts. So Evelyn won't be joining us anymore as the Thera character, but maybe at some point we can write her in for a bit part just to have her back. But thank you all, and Jeremiah, we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right,
thank you.
Take care. Though this marks the end of the episode, the tale continues within a 10-day. Join us at longwinded.one and consider giving us a review on Apple Music, Spotify, or really whichever platform you choose.